Welcome back to the channel, everybody. These two bikes here are what I got on trade for the XR75. Because after the clutch broke, or the clutch cable broke, I was done. I knew what it was, I knew what I did, because when I moved the clutch cable back and zip tied it to the frame, it put too much tension on it and it snapped. My fault, nobody else's. Should have known better, but after that I was just done with it. I did my job, it ran just fine. So it would actually idle again, which was great. It actually ran or revved and idled just fine. Never actually got to ride it once the new carburetor was put on, which is kind of a bummer, but I'm just done with it. And I actually, have a soft spot for these CT70s and the little mini bikes. I just like them a lot better. So, but I listed on Marketplace for $1,500. A guy from Texas said, "Hey, I have this CT70 and I'll throw in some cash." I was like, okay. I mean, it had checked all the boxes. It's got good compression. The clutch moves freely. Everything moves freely. Nothing's majorly wrong with it besides it's been neglected, which is usually how I get them anyways. So, but then later on, he was like, instead of the cash, do you want the CRF50? I was like, well, what's wrong with it? He said, nothing. When he got it, it had bent forks, so he replaced the forks with the newer front end, I think off of 18 or 19, and he put the same plastics on it, the newer plastics as well, because this is actually an 03. He rebuilt the top end, and he said the only thing it really needs is it's been sitting a while, so the gas needs to be drained and the carburetor needs to be cleaned. So, seemed like an honest guy, so I had no worries at all. Got it home, turned the fuel on, it fired right up. No issues at all. But it has really loud valve train noise. And I'll show you all that, but it has really loud valve train noise, so I don't know if it's actually the valves or the timing chain. I think it's the timing chain, it just needs to be adjusted. So we'll check the timing and check the valves and all that stuff, make sure everything's where it needs to be, and we'll get this thing back running the way it should. So I think he just put piston and rings in it because the cylinder head is stamped HM, which stands for Honda Motors, and the cylinder itself is actually stamped HM as well. So that makes me feel good because I don't like Chinese top ends. They do work, but they do make this. There's sometimes they just have a lot of rocker noise. They're just noisy. I don't know if it's tolerances or something, or there may be tricks, but I haven't really found them out yet because everyone I've ran across, they run fine. The valves are adjusted just the way they should. The timing chain's perfect. Everything is the way it is, but they're just noisy. So, but that's enough of me talking. Let's get started. All right, I'm going to show y'all what sound it's making. Okay, it's on. Turn the fuel on. Let's wait a few minutes. Because what I'm going to try to do, so I'm going to start with the timing chain first. I'll take the stator or the flywheel cover off. I'll take the timing gear cover off as well. Check timing, make sure it's timed right, and then check the tension on the actual chain itself. Because I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure these are adjustable. I don't know about the newer ones. The older ones, it has a set screw where I'll show you. It sets the plunger on a tension, or on the tension that you want, and it has because it's threaded on the inside, and it has a bolt that goes through that locks it wherever you tighten it to. So we're going to try that, but I want y'all to hear it. Okay. She is smoking a little bit. All right, I ain't going to run it too long. Like I said, it kind of sounds like rocker arms, they're not adjusted properly, but it also sounds like it could be the timing chain itself. So I really think it's the timing chain, but I don't know. So like I said, I'm going to take that stator or flywheel cover off and take the timing gear cover off and set it to top dead center, see how the timing is, and then we'll see how tight or loose the chain is. I shouldn't have to take the shifter arm off, but I'm going to do it anyways. To get this off, there's a 10 mil bolt on the back, and it goes all the way through the head through the timing gear. So what I do, I'll show you. What I do is, here's the bolt there. So what I'll do is I'll loosen it pretty much all the way. I'll leave some threads on it, and I'll just tap on it with a wrench or the back of the impact or whatever. And it actually might be loose already. No, it's already loose. So as soon as I loosen this, the other part fell off. But usually, sometimes if they're sealed on there, like tight on the cover side, you just tap on this a little bit with something. It should pop it loose. So, all right. Gasket actually looks in decent shape. Pretty sure that's top dead center. I hope not. Let me pull the spark plug out. Burning a little rich, but top dead center on these little singles. What I do is just pull the spark plug out, put my finger over the spark plug hole, turn this over until I feel pressure come out of the spark plug hole. I don't know if you heard that, but that's top dead center. That is top dead center. I'm gonna have to pull the caps off and make sure that this gear, he may just not put it on right, because I don't think there's any alignment pins beside these two bolts here. And he has the gear 180 out, but if you just take this and swap it, this directly lines up with that. So, but I'm going to pull the tappet covers off and see where they're at. Should be a 17, and hopefully they're not that tight. If he's done this recently, they shouldn't be on there. All right. Yeah, they're pretty loose. So at least that one is. I ain't liking that oil. It's weird. It's kind of hazy. So hopefully I didn't get screwed over on this deal. And that could be, honestly don't know. But, oh, you hear that? You see that? Wow. If that's top dead center, they are way out. So let me pull these plastics off real quick, and then we can get a better look at it. Well, y'all probably knew this. I was just trying to take the back off, so I thought maybe because there's two bolts here, that since the seat and the back plastics are together, I was like, all right, maybe this is another piece. No, the two screws here were loose, but there's two little clips here, and I took those off, and it comes off in one piece. I had no idea. So, but now we can get to it a lot easier. But yeah, I'm actually surprised that they are that loose and is actually running. So what I'm going to do is tighten that or adjust those valves. I need to check on specs. Actually, the specs might be here on the forks. Let's see here. Valve lash intake 0.05 millimeters, exhaust 0.05 millimeters cold. Oh, that's cool. Everything's right here. That's awesome. So makes it a lot easier for me. So I'm gonna adjust these because I don't know. That's like way off. I mean, like way, way off. Wow. I don't see if you can see this oil or not. I don't know if it's kind of, I don't know if it got, going off this flywheel, it may have been sitting a while. It's got some water in it. I don't know for sure, but see how cloudy that looks? So this is going to need at least 2 oil changes to where I feel good about it if I decide to sell this, which I probably will just because I don't really like the newer bikes. I mean, this is cool, but also seen there's a page out there, I think it's ZFR something, and what they do is they take the old style split rims off the Z50s and adapt them to these bikes. And I do have a old set of rims and new tires. The only issue with those, they're wider, so you actually have to get another set of front forks that are wider, like off the actual old Z50s. I think the neck and everything's the same, but you have to get wider forks or wider triple tree for it to actually work. So I don't know if I want to do that or not yet. I know it'll look a lot cooler with the old style because I do have a set of knockoff chrome wheels that I think would actually look really good on this bike. So, but the main thing is get that fixed. So, all right, let's start on that. I don't know if you can see this, but see how far that's moving? That's way too much. I'll show y'all before and after. This is how I set valves. So I have this little tool here, slides over the top. It's got this little square right there that goes on top of the actual stem, and then this is the actual nut size, the locking nut size. So, and this right here is a 12 millimeter. So, oh, man. But this is how you set valves. So, what I'll do is I get this is actually in inches. This is actually 3 thousandths. It calls for 2 thousandths, but I always go a little bit above. So I'll tighten this down till that's snug. And you just want a little bit of drag on it. And then tighten the nut down. And then you'll check it. And see, it just barely wants to go in. And no, I don't know if you remember, if you can see it, but how far it moved before, that's how far it's supposed to move. I mean, just barely. I'm actually kind of glad it wasn't the timing chain. So that one's done. Put the cap back on. The exhaust is sometimes a little pain in the butt because gravity's not in your favor. But it shouldn't be too bad because you have to hold everything. Because you have to actually hold the socket on top of the nut because it wants to slide back because gravity. So this bike has had a rough life. I can see why he didn't want his grandkids to ride it anymore. Nothing against him. I mean, he probably just didn't really mess with this bike enough to know what was wrong with it. Feel good about that one. Just leave it there and snug this down. And that's good. Oh yeah. So there's no tension on it. It's on top dead center. watery, oily cap back on. Man, that bugs me. But seeing that flywheel is a indicator that this thing has been sitting outside for a while, probably before he got it. And this, he really couldn't tell me much about it besides that he got it for his grandson or grandkids. And he replaced the front end, which is nice because they said that was bent. So if it was bent, it means it was wrecked. It was sitting outside a while, and he bought it. He probably even checked the oil or changed the oil. All right, valves are done. I'm just gonna put the cap back on for now, and we're gonna see if that fixed the issue, which I'm pretty sure it did. So spark plug's a little rich, but he put an aftermarket Chinese carburetor on there, it looks like. So he didn't have the original one, which is a bummer. But as long as this is the only issue we find, then I'm happy. So, and pulling this part, I found out that it's got a key switch. I didn't even know that. That's pretty cool. Leave it on. Okay. Caps are back on. They're tight. Let's go to the other side and see what happens. Yeah, it goes this way. Probably have to replace that gasket. It was pretty torn, but we will see. So I'll leave the flywheel off or cover off. I ain't really worried about that. So turn the fuel on. Let's see. Oh, I turned the key on. Well, it does smoke a little bit. Not happy about that. Which makes me think the top end he did. Maybe he didn't do it right. Put the rings on the wrong way. I don't know. But like I said, I rode it around, and when I was shifting from first to second, even third, it popped the front wheel off the ground, no problem. So can't even hear those valves anymore. All right, so now we're going to tackle this. I'm going to take it back to top dead center, and we're going to swap. They're going to drop the gear down, turn it to where it's the right way, where the actual indicator is pointing where it needs to instead of the opposite direction. Like I said, as long as it was set at top dead center, and that he just probably forgot to put it where it needed to be. So, and are you kidding me? I just now seen that. Holy crap. Y'all probably seen this when I first showed y'all, but there's no bolt here. And there's supposed to be a bolt here. And because there's a bolt right here for on the case, there's supposed to be a bolt here that sandwiches these two together. Now you do have your studs here, but there's also supposed to be a bolt here. So maybe there's a little bit seeping through. I doubt it. I honestly doubt this is why it's smoking, but I'm just surprised that this wasn't put back on there. So let's see. I can't believe I didn't catch that. Yeah, that oil does concern me, so I'm gonna have to change it out. That is no bueno. Maybe some fresh gas will help it too. Like I said, it's idling great, honestly. On the older bikes, there's 3 on the cam gear, and they're 9s. I think that actually looks like an 8. Actually, it might be smaller. It might be a 7. Nope, it's an 8. So the good thing about these newer ones, the actual cams themselves are actually on bearings instead of just bushings and tolerances. So I'm going to have to loosen the timing chain because as soon as I unbolt these, it's going to drop back and I won't have enough pressure or force without damaging anything to get this to where it needs to be, which is right here. There's a dot here, and there's a little indentation here, and these are supposed to line up. So I'm just actually surprised that Honda did that. They're just 2 bolts directly in line, so you could actually have this in the wrong spot. Luckily, he didn't time it in this spot because he could have really did some damage. So, but I don't know if you can see it or not, but right here, this is where your timing chain tensioner is. It slides up and down here, and this right here is the actual lock nut that locks the shaft in place and holds the whatever tension you have it set at. So, that's what I'm going to try to do. This, on the older ones, it's a 14. I don't know if this is a 14. No, it's bigger than that. That's a 12 size. Never mind. He torqued everything down. You get a pan. Oh, she did. We'll leave that in partial. So should have no tension on that now, which is great. So try to have something. I'm gonna try to have this here. Thank you for not falling inside the motor. All right. Pop that out. What you can do is grab you a pick or something and just keep working it around the cam gear, and it will move the position of the cam or the gear itself until you're right where you want to be. Just a little bit at a time. And we're getting closer. And actually I need to go back one. So if you want to go one way, you go, seems like you go counterclockwise. You want to go the opposite, go clockwise. So I guess we're going to go in small bites. So, and that's lined up. Where's my, I forgot. There we go. Let me clean these bolts up real quick. All right, I'm back. They're clean. So put these in. And snug them down. Oh. And there's a torque spec, but with this little thing, these little bolts, it don't take much. And like I said, as long as you don't use a 3/8 or ½ inch impact on these, you're going to be fine. Like I said, there is a torque spec, so if you want to go by the book, go by the book. But I've never had an issue with this at all. And that's it. So check it, and it's right there. This is lined up with this indentation, and this is lined up with the one on the case. So it moves a little bit because the top dead center, but you move the timing mark to the little cutout on the case, and it lines right up. it might be a hair off, but once you actually put tension on this chain, it should be fine. I could have swore there was a plunger in there, and there is. I can feel it. So there's like a little, let's see if I can get it out. There it is. But this thing here is what holds tension on your chain here, and then the spring goes in behind it. And then once you have the set tension, actually I think this is an auto adjuster, so it don't matter, but once you get this in with the spring in and the bolt in, then you go to that little 10 mil bolt here on the side. I know you can't see it, I'm sorry, but it's just kind of a crappy angle. I'll show you in a minute. So let me get this in and I'll show you. But kind of just reverse the process. And again, there's a torque spec for every bolt on this dang bike, but for me, it's just, to me, it's common sense. You're not going to torque this thing to 100 foot-pounds. It's just enough to where it puts tension on it and seals it. All this is in inch-pounds on these bikes, but so I think the head bolts may be different. Oh, trying to wipe my hands off. All right. Okay. All right. Like I was saying, just common sense, but I think the head bolts, cylinder head bolts, is like 90. No, it might be 119, 110. I think it's 110 inch-pounds. And there's, like I said, there's an equation to convert foot-pounds to inch-pounds. So, like this one, I'm going to get this. I'm going to set this in here and then just tighten down that 10 mil bolt. All right. Now, hopefully y'all can see, but this 10 mil bolt here is what holds that tension on everything. So and that's it. So it doesn't look like this was actually leaking at all. So I'm going to put this back together till I find me a gasket. I'm pretty sure I have a spare, but I'm not 100% sure. But I will go ahead and put a bolt on here because that's going to bug me. I don't get that. All right, I found a bolt. And it honestly seems like on all these they've used the same bolts and everything. The ones that hold on this side, on the left side, that hold the cylinder to the case and then the cylinder to the head, they have these style bolts. It has a Phillips on it. But so I have a little bin that I just keep all these in. I don't ever throw any of these away. Unless they're just stripped out, then I'll throw them away. But usually I don't throw any of these bolts away. So I'll rebuild an engine for somebody or for myself. I'll get a brand new bolt kit, and then all the ones that are still in decent shape I'll keep and just throw them in a little bin or box over there. And that's it. So I hoard these little parts for these bikes. So this is actually the first little newer 50 I've ever worked on. I've never worked on anything this new. The newest 50 I've worked on was, I think, a 93. And it was still kind of the old style. I mean, it's the same engine. But this is a monoshock, and it's got different style wheels. I don't know why they went to these spoke wheels. Maybe they're cheaper to make. I don't know. Let's get this cover back on. Let me check tension real quick. Yeah, that's good. Now let's get the cover back on, and then I will find the torque specs for this, and we'll torque it down. You can see the spark plug, it's a little rich. Not much though. Definitely have to adjust that. So the last thing I want to do is tear this motor apart, but I don't think I'll have to. I'm just scared because when I took the spark plug off and put it back on, the threads didn't seem great. So I want to try to limit many times as I take this off and how much torque you put on that. So I forgot what I was going to do. Think. I'm drawing a blank. Torque the head. That's what it was. All right, guys. I'll get back with you when I figure that out. This is the one I already torqued down. You want to go in a cross pattern. So I started here. So I'll go cross and see. Oh, that wasn't a good sound. Okay. Don't break.
It's actually 104 inch-pounds. So what you do is you'll take the actual foot-pounds, which is 8 to 9, times that by 12, and that'll give you your inch-pounds.
Whew, had me worried for a minute. So I started on that side. So what I'll do is I'll go down here. Do the same thing. Cross up here. Okay. I'll do this a few more times. And that's it. That's how you torque these down. Like I said, in all the manuals and stuff, the way I remember, because everybody talks about this, the copper washer on these heads, the copper washer goes on the bottom side, on the same side the oil pump is at. And the oil pump is on the clutch side. And I've seen people run, if they don't know, they'll run copper washers on all of them. It ain't going to hurt it. But that's a really thin. No, that's okay. I was like, that looked like a thin washer for a minute. Wouldn't surprise me at this point. But then on your older ones, usually the one with the exposed stud, so all these are acorn nuts, except these two, and it's usually that bottom one over here. So that's where people get it confused. Chain's rusty too. This needs everything. Honestly, it needs a full makeover, but I'm not going to do that because, like I said, it runs great. So I'm really happy about these plastics, how easy they go on. So, all right. I just wish I need to find some bolts or some screws for the top here because I don't have any. Okay. Like I said, the front just takes these little clips here. There's 2 clips on either side, or 1 on each side. And get out of y'all's way. Push it through. Lock it down. So this is nice about this. And also, I was thinking about it, since I torqued this down, what you want to do And these two other bolts I was talking about, you also want to torque those down as well. Like I said, there is a spec for that, but I don't know. I get these pretty snug with just a 10. I've never had an issue. So now let's see how she sounds now. Hopefully the same with everything back on because I didn't change much. I may actually have to check the air filter as well. Like I said, that air box, because it has the recirculation for the crankcase. You saw the oil coming out. It's probably just sucking oil in. That's my guess, anyways. Maybe check see how old the gas is. It actually don't smell bad at all. I mean, you can tell it's a little older, but it ain't bad. And if I had some seafoam, I'd pour some seafoam in here, but I don't. I'll have to get more. I can't remember if it actually smoked when I first started it up or not. I was more focused on the actual noise than. All right, that's pretty much it. I shut it off just so I can change the oil. So got to make sure I actually have oil to actually put in it. So let me check real quick. I do not. This is what I use, Shell Rotella T4. It's got, you can look on the back and it's actually designed for wet clutch bikes, or motorcycles. So that's what I use. So I'm going to go buy some more and I will get back with y'all. All right. Just got back from getting oil. I'm going to drain the oil. This takes a 17 mil. And I'm hoping. So I'm using this. I want to see exactly how much was in there because it should be 0.8 liters. And that doesn't look good at all. It does not look good at all. So it's only got about 600 in it right now. It needs to be. It's right here. And it needs to be 200 more. So it needs to be at this line here. So I'll let that drain and I'll get back with y'all. All right, oil's drained, plugs back in, and that's just nasty. So it's went up a little bit, about I'd say 650, but like I said, it still needs to be around 8. So pull this off. We're gonna add some fresh oil. Like I said, I'm probably gonna have to drain this again after running it, just to get all that crap. All that crap oil out of there. So all right. See if I can add this without spilling any. That's it for that. Okay. Figured I'd explain a little bit more on this oil. The reason I use this because on motorcycles with wet clutch, the JASO, the JASO, the MA and the MA2, this is what's actually recommended and good for wet clutch oil bikes. So not many people know about that, I guess. But the Shell Rotella T4 1540, and even if you go buy a motorcycle oil, a lot of them are 1040, 1540. Some are 2050. It all depends on what you want. But the 1540 is a good all around oil, I think, unless you're in hotter climates or really run the bike hard. I mean, it all depends on what you're doing with it, but just something you're putting around, that's going to do just fine. So, all right, I'm going to start the bike up, let it run a little bit, and then we should be done. I may actually look into this air filter here as well. So, turn fuel on, power on. I really don't want to rebuild the top end on this bike, but I don't know. It's actually a good looking bike though. Like I said, I really want to put the older style Z50 wheels on there or the ZR50 wheels on here, but I'll have to get Z50 forks because the tires on the older bikes, the forks are wider, the tires are wider, and these are more narrow. So these are basically brand new forks. I really don't want to mess with them. So, all right, I'm going to try to pull that air filter, the air box off. So, got the air box off, and I'm not seeing anything that's causing it to smoke. And I ran it with the airbox off with the factory plug. So what I'm going to try now is I replace the plug. So I'm going to run it a little bit. There's not much gas in the bowl because I had to take the gas tank off. And we'll just see if it smokes. I'm pretty sure it will. I'm pretty sure it needs new rings. So, all right, once I got everything back together, turned the fuel on, and it was just pouring through the overflow here. So I wanted to tear it apart and see why it's doing that, because usually when it's overflowing like that, you can tap on the bowl or the carburetor and the valve will seat, but in this case it didn't. And if you can look right here, this little piece right here was actually stuck on the needle seat there. So probably can just clean that and blow it out with a little air and be done. But what I'm going to do, since I already have it apart, the bowl actually, and it's not in bad shape. I mean, it's a Chinese carburetor. But what I'm going to do is just tear it apart, take it, tear it down, and put it in the ultrasonic cleaner, and then I'll put it back together, and we should be good. So I went ahead and ordered a top end kit for the bike because I don't think I'll be able to fix the smoking issue unless I have new top end. With the other work that was done, at first I was trying to be optimistic and saying, "Oh, I'll just try little things here, little things there. Maybe it just needs to burn everything off." No, I didn't check compression, but I'm pretty sure I'm getting blow by the rings. So, all right, I was thinking back to the XR75 build, and after I swapped the carburetor from the factory one to the one from Rheem MX, which is a T-bolt carburetor, that the smoke went away and it actually idled and revved up great. So I messaged T-bolt before the top end kit was actually, the order was actually sent out. I messaged them, said, "Hey, instead of the gasket and the piston, the top end kit, can you send a carburetor instead?" And it was the same price. And Vince messaged me back and said, "Yeah, no problem." So, and I've never had an issue with T-Bolt. Vince is great. He's always helped me out. No issues whatsoever. Any kind of problems I've had, they've dealt with it and got me taken care of. So, but what makes me think this carburetor is the issue, the same with the XR75, it's just blowing so much smoke out, which it kind of looked white, but I put a piece of paper towel behind it, the exhaust, and gave it some RPMs, and the entire rag, well, this is just grease, but the entire rag was just covered in black soot, and the plug looks the exact same way. So this one I use on test bikes when I build little 50cc engines, and I know it's a good carburetor. And I actually think this is the exact same style that I'm getting, same make and everything, because this one just says W on it. So, and different, you can see the flange here. It's totally different. Which the new one may, I'm not sure on the new style flange, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be exactly like this. I know this works, so we're going to put this on the bike before the new carburetor comes in and see if this fixes my issue, which I actually think it will, and we'll go from there. Carbs on, fuel's on, no leaks. I was thinking that if this doesn't fix the issue, how it's cutting out, it might actually be the air filter itself. While it is good, it may be restrictive, which is why I'm getting a lot of fuel, not enough airflow. So what we're going to do is try it like this, see how it does, and then if no change, if it still cuts out about half throttle, then I'll take the airbox off and see if that makes it rev easier. I don't think the smoking issue is going to be solved by this, but I could be wrong. But we'll see. Well, that didn't fix that. So I'm just having a bad run of bikes. It's mostly me. Actually, it's all me. So let's pull this off real quick. Ah, great. That's how my evening's going. Hopefully, y'all's is going better. But let's pull this off. Mop up some of this fuel. Oh, man. Can't believe I did that. Well, at least I can get to clean my table. That's nice. All right, gas tank. So I ain't really worried about bolting it down because I'm going to take it right back off, I'm sure. So now that we got a bunch of fuel on top of the cylinder, don't recommend doing this, but we're going to fire it up. That's better. But why is it cutting out about half throttle? With the filter on, it would cut out and not go anymore. With the airbox off, it would cut out but still rev. So, like I said, I still ordered that carburetor. I probably should have ordered the top end kit or the gasket kit, but thinking about this now, if he replaced the piston and rings, and that's a worn out cylinder because the factory bore is 39 millimeters. So, and if it's worn out and that cylinder needs to be bored out to the next size, and he just threw it in there, and the rings are the gap's way off, it's going to cause it to smoke. I'll still get decent compression, which I have. I have 150 psi compression because I checked it with the carburetor off, which is what you want to do. You want to make sure that either if you have the carburetor on, you want to have it full throttle. That way it has all the air, and it got 150 psi within 4 kicks. So it's probably a good thing I didn't order that, because if I have to order, if I'm going back stock, which I should, I don't want to. I want to go to a big bore, but then that adds other things that I have to do to it. But the kit for new cylinder, piston, rings, all that stuff, gaskets from T-Bolt is $100 for everything for stock bore. Big bore kit comes with everything, but then you have to rejet the carburetor. You have to. It's recommended to get a high flow oil pump, but then I'll have to like I said, rejet the carburetor, make sure everything's working properly in the head, make sure the valves are seating how they should. So it just makes everything else it's a snowball effect is what it is. So I'm gonna wait till the new carburetor comes in, but I'm gonna wait till the new carburetor comes in and install that. I will replace the air filter with this universal filter stuff I have, and because the filter was pretty tacky now that I'm thinking about it. So new carburetor, new filter, and we'll see how it goes from there. I also got to replace that boot because it's actually cracked on one side. All right, it's just a waiting game now, so I'll get back with y'all when I get parts in. Carb came in, T-Bolt. Doesn't seem necessary to do this because, like I said, between both carburetors, didn't really fix the issue. So, like I said, I'm leaning more towards compression, but this is just a spare one I've had around for a while, and also been needing another one anyways because I got a few other older Z50s that take this style of carburetor. So, like I said, Vince really helped me out on this. Like I said, I will probably need a top end kit, but this one, if this doesn't fix it, I'm probably just going to end up running this one. Then I'll find a different little nipple here for the overflow, or I might actually pull it off this one, or I might just use the bowl off this one. I'm not sure yet. Like I said, if this doesn't fix the issue, which I'm about 80% sure it won't, but like I said, I'm just trying here before I have to pull the engine apart, which having all the parts, it won't take me more than a day to do everything. I just would rather not pull the engine apart. So that's it. Like I said, it's the exact same as this one. I think I got it from T-Bolt as well. So I've had this one forever. By forever, I mean probably a couple years, maybe a little more, a little less than that. But so it's the exact same. This one, I actually had to drill the holes out on here to run bolts through because I had to modify this one a little bit to fit on the older style Z50s because the older ones had the studs. Can't remember if it was, it had the studs in here and they're just a little bit narrower. So I had to kind of drill these out just a little bit to put just a bolt and a nut through. So, all right, I'm going to slap this one on and we'll see what happens. New carb is on, added a new fuel line. That clear one was actually just starting to get a little soft and started leaking. And I also took this off because a big piece of chunk right there. I kind of got off, and then there was a lot of rust buildup on this pickup here. I cleaned that off real quick, and then all over here. So my thought now is, since I've already swapped carburetors twice, and the original one I thought was the issue, but that other one on there, which I know is a good carburetor. So, like I said, this one is just going to be a backup. If this turns out to be the issue, I'll clean the original one that came with it and see how it works. If it fixes the issue, then I'll put that back on there and I'll have a brand new spare carburetor. Not really worried about it. Like I said, there's just so much rust in here. Like I said, I am getting good spark, but maybe it's not consistent, which is why it's not burning good enough. Like I said, well, the smoke is actually, I don't actually think it's actually from the exhaust, like I said, or from the top end, because it has 150 psi compression. I'm thinking maybe it was a worn out cylinder. The rings are gapped a little bit, allowing a little excess crank pressure, but I'm not seeing any come through the vent at all on the backside here. So I'm going to clean the flywheel up, going to clean these contacts up, put it back on, and we'll see what happens. I'm going to run this through the vapor blasting cabinet. So here's a little before, and that's after. It's still, like I said, there's a lot of pitting on this thing. So there's a spot here. I used the vapor blasting cabinet, but I wasn't getting a lot of the heavy stuff off. I need to really clean the water out and change the media, but you can see how it's starting to eat into this flywheel. So I use the little bench grinder and a little Dremel with wire wheel, and then I use some sand paper on the contacts there. So, and back wheel's off. Got new tires in, tubes, and I forgot to order wheel bearings. Then I popped, I'll show you, popped 3 tubes trying to put the back tire on. And I tried to touch up the black paint because the blasting cabinet wouldn't take a lot of the paint off the actual rim and the hub itself. So I tried to do a somewhat decent job, but it turned out like crap. So ordered some Chinese special ones from Amazon. Front and rear sprocket chain was like $120. Not what I wanted to do. I wanted to keep these, but I was frustrated, and these smaller rims, unless it's a 2-piece, which is why I wanted to go to the actual Z50 style, because it's a 2-piece rim and they're a lot easier to take on and off, or tires on and off. So tires should be in shortly. But let's get this flywheel on. All right, now let's turn the fuel on, and let's see if she fires up. Like I said, I'm gonna leave the air box off for now. I actually bought using another filter wherever it's at. It's a little foam pod filter. I was gonna try that as well, but like I said, Airbox has a new filter in it. So, but I'm gonna try this to see how it actually idles and everything. So let's get to it. All right, power switch is on, fuel's on. I'm not going to try to kick it. I'm going to try to use my hand, because now that I have the back tire off, it's not balanced as well. Might have to choke it. It is pretty cold in the shop. Yeah, I might have to try to kick it. I don't know. Oh, now you don't want to run? Do I got the... Yeah, ground wires on. Is the key on? Yeah. Yeah, key's on. Switch is on. Maybe I messed something. I don't know. All right. Seems to be idling a little higher. I'm going to put the air filter back on and we'll see what happens. All right, air box is on. Filter material's been replaced. Like I said, I'm hoping this fixes it, or if not, helps it a little bit, because that was nasty. I can see now why it was, if this does fix it, why that was causing issues, because it was getting intermediate spark, not allow it to spark all the time. I don't think it's going to fix the smoking issue. I still think the smoking issue is he put standard bore piston and rings in a worn out cylinder. I could be wrong, but we won't know. So let's just fire this thing up and see what happens. Switch is on, fuel's on. I don't think I need choke. Try to change to a different plug real quick. That was an improvement. Yeah. That was actually an older plug. Let's go back to a newer style NGK. See if we got spark. Not the spark I like. Try this NGK. Now that's better. So let's try it now. Like I said, when I was easing into it, it did a lot better. This is with the air box on, so I'm actually happy with that. So I do have a pod filter that I could throw on it as well, but I want to try to keep this factory as possible, just because it's just a little bike for a little kid. All right, let's try that. I'm going to call that done, because that was a big improvement. There still may be some connections in here. It actually might be in here as well. I looked in here and I didn't see any corrosion on the connectors. So, but from what it was, I'm going to say that's done, because it's a lot better than it was. I may experiment with the pod filter here and see, and I'll let y'all know when I get the tires in and put them on, and I'll try this. And if it's on there, at the end of the video, it's going to stay with the bike. So I'm trying to get these videos a lot shorter. It's just hard just to cram everything in. So, but so I didn't want to do the Chinese rims and tires, but after popping 3 tubes and then having to order wheel bearings, I still haven't received the wheel bearings yet. I'm tired with that, because those 10-inch rims are just a pain in the butt, especially when those tires are brand new. They're hard to stretch, and I just trying to make it a little easier on myself, because like I said, I don't really want to get too much invested in this bike, which I've already actually surpassed that, honestly, because buying tubes and tires. But like I said, I'll eventually try again, get those going. I'll keep those as spares for another bike, or I may sell them as brand new tires on Marketplace. I don't know yet. So, but that's it for now. Like I said, we're going to wait for tires to come in. They should come in the next few days. And once they do, I'll slap all that together and I will show you all the finished product. All right, everyone. That's it for the CRF50. The only thing left for me to do is just a little detail. I said it's pretty much clean, but there's some little grease smudges from me moving around and stuff. But I'm actually surprised how well the Chinese rims and tires turned out, because when I got them, they were already assembled and filled with air. I didn't have to do anything to them. Minus, I had to. What is that? It ain't never coming off. Only thing I had to do was find nuts and bolts for the rear sprocket because it didn't come with it when I bought the kit. The chain actually came off the. Actually, I bought the chain when I was going to replace it, the original rims with new tires, because it's already set to the proper lengths, which is 78, I think. Yeah, 78. And the kit came with a chain, but it was 160 links, which I'm like, well, I'm just going to run these or this one because I don't have to cut anything and it's gold. Looks better, in my opinion. And I think it's a better quality too, because that other one it looked cheap. So I'll use it on another bike because the 420 chain, it's universal for a lot of these other smaller bikes, whether it's Suzuki or Honda, Yamaha, Kawasaki. A lot of your smaller bikes take 420, so I'll definitely use it for something else. But other than that, it turned out pretty great, I think. It still smokes. I'm still having trouble with that because what I did was I put the original carburetor that came with the bike on, put the air box back on, and it actually runs actually great, minus the smoke. If it didn't smoke, I mean, it's 100% in my opinion, minus a few little things, obviously, because it's been neglected. But I'll just show y'all. Instead of talking about it, I'll just show y'all. Oh, fuel's already on. No, I was riding around earlier today, so because I was hoping that I could just ride it around, get enough heat in the engine to burn off if there's anything left in the exhaust, but that's most likely not the problem. It's something else. I think it's not actually. I think it's just running rich, honestly. So, but let's fire up. Yeah, she's running rich, so. All right. Make sure I turn the fuel off this time. But overall, I think she turned out great. Even when I did the trade, I didn't honestly think I was going to keep this bike because this isn't my flavor. I like the Trail 70s and the older Z50s and stuff like that. So if it's newer than 80s, I usually don't mess with it. I don't like that stuff. Man, there is a spot on here. That is going to bug me. Oh well. If you sit on it, it goes away. Problem solved. But so the plan with this is just to sell it, hopefully make a little bit, because the value when I got this bike is around, well, he was going to give me the Trail 70 and $400 cash. Then he decided to give me this instead. So I'll value this at 400, or what I have in it. And then I put a couple $100 in it. I think, yeah, $200 ish in it, and then labor, but I really can't count my labor. So Because if I did, then I wouldn't make any money or make a profit on this. So I'm going to list it for $1,000, see what happens. If I get my money back, great. I'm not really upset. Like I said, I'm just going to take the money I get from this and put it in the Trail 70. So since that actually is worth more, and also I like them a lot more, it's just to be honest. So that's it for this. There wasn't really much to it, minus, like I said, me jumbling around with carburetors. Now I have a brand new spare carburetor to use, which is actually a plus. So, but that's going to do it for this video. I want to thank y'all for watching, and I'll see y'all on the next one.